Okay, so this will be the process that we use at Watermark in the production department to program a song freshly downloaded from Ableton, or excuse me, from Multitracks, and programming lyric cues into it, so it will automatically fire the lyrics out of Propresenter. Excuse me, and adding timecode to it, and yeah. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and open our Multitracks Ableton file. So at Watermark, we operate in Dropbox as of the recording of this video, and we download all of the we keep a library of all the files directly from Multitracks in Dropbox, and then we will take those, customize them, and create that to our master set, or add that to our master set once we add timecode and the MIDI lyric cues. So we'll go ahead and open that. Let's go to Open Live Set, and then in Dropbox, go down to Weekends, Ableton Files, Backing Tracks, and then you'll see all of these folders. This is exactly what it looks like when you download them. This is how they're titled when you download them from the Multitracks website. So the song we're looking for is Won't Stop Now. So we'll go down to the W, Won't Stop Now. And then open the ALS file, label Multitrack, go ahead and open it. Sure, that's just the previous weekend's project that was open. So this is laid out in this landscape view. And this is what we're going to be operating in. So let's see, we'll zoom in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to want to do is raise up our master and check that our audio is patched where it needs to go. So we'll just go to 2 because 1 is always our click, and we're not going to hear that back here. So the first thing we want to do is patch that to output 2, and then that will allow all of these multitracks all grouped together. So click through keys 3, all of these will go to the master bus, and then the master bus will sum together and output to output 2. And that should allow us to hear it if I hit play, as long as I have, the track should be pulled up still in the broadcast audio. Let's check. Yep. Actually, let me turn this up a little bit. I think what you're going to hear. All right. Cool. So what you're hearing is just off of my microphone, I think, which is fine because it doesn't really, the audio doesn't really matter as much at this point. But basically, this is the track, Won't Stop Now. It's from Elevation Worship. And so what we need to do is we want to go in and pull in our MIDI cues and timecode into this. So as the playhead moves across the song, it sends out MIDI cues, and also sends timecode for lighting and front of house audio console automation as well. So the first thing we want to do is we could either drag in timecode first and do MIDI second, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. I think the first thing we'll do is go ahead and bring in MIDI, our MIDI commands, and get the Propresenter stuff set, because that's probably the more important thing. Anyway, so what I have is a series of cues, Propresenter MIDI cues, right here, and here, and then these are all like the default cues that are MIDI controllable in Propresenter. So the first thing we want to do is drag in a select playlist. So, well, actually, before we do that, we need to jump over to Propresenter, and we need to get the song pulled up. So, real quick, I'll go ahead and pull in the PCO playlist for the week that we're doing the song, which happens to be July 11th. And then Won't Stop Now is right here. Go ahead and convert this to non-PCO. And I just need to clean this up, clean up some of the junk out of here. I'm not going to go over all of the intricacies of programming on a weekly basis because this video is more for programming a new song, so I'm not going to go over the details of velocity numbers and what playlist it needs to select, but basically you need to have your playlist in Propresenter set with all of your items that are going to stay in here, and that will dictate what playlist number gets dragged into Ableton. I'll show you that in a minute. So what I'm doing in Propresenter right now is basically just solidifying this playlist order, that what is here is going to be locked in, or else we'll have to go in and edit it later, which you could certainly do. It's just do it once and get it over with. So let's see, pre-service experience, that can go away. We'll go pre-service, all camp, we'll go here, and then I'll just do this really quick. That bump here, delete the message, I'll just keep that, and I think there's a communion, that, and then dismiss. Okay, so this is all locked in with the library items, or presentations, I think they're called. These are all what's going to be in there with the exception of the message, because that has not been created at this point in time. But what we need to do is basically just go 3. Won't Stop Now is the 3rd song on the list, so that's what we need to know. And then we need to make sure that the arrangement is set to default, not master. There's videos on arrangements in Propresenter. I'm not going to go into that for this video, but it needs to be set to default because now these slides are arranged in the way that we're going to do the song. And then what I will do is just go over really quick in Propresenter what needs to be added in here for the song to work. So the first thing we'll do is click on the first slide, do Command A to select all the slides, and then we'll go through to Template, Lyric Styles, Gray Box. What that will do is put a gray box around this for when we add a background, so then you'll be able to see the text over it. You can't really see it here because it's just a black background, but if I, let's see, let me pull in the background really quick to give an example. Propresenter backgrounds, and literally whatever. Where's a cool one? Sure. I don't know. Actually, this will be a good example because it's a brighter background. So say this is your background, and let's apply the default template to that. Okay, so this is your background right there, and you put your text over it. Now there's a gray box. That's just a template that I created, and we basically just apply that to all the slides. So as it advances, it will continue to have that box around it, even when there's no text. This slide has that black box template on it, which we want to get rid of, so we'll go to Template Default, and we can't see anything here, but if I fire it again, now there's nothing there. So we'll just go through really quick and just get rid of the gray box for any blank slides, just because that box is kind of awkward to not have text on. So the text slides still have the box, but the non-text slides don't now. Second thing we need to do is go add cue, add clear action, clear background. That will help moving forward if there was any sort of graphic or anything. I don't know that this background is what we're going to keep in here. It might start with no background, and in that case, if there is a background up here prior to this, it would carry over So that clear background clears any background out. So then moving forward, if the program, we wanted to start with no background, that little cue that got added will clear out anything previous. And the next thing we need to do is stage display worship. And then that will change our confidence monitor. If we click on this, it shows that is our confidence monitor. That's our confidence monitor layout currently. That's not what we want for worship. So I just added the worship. So when I click on this now, it changes it. So it's showing the next slide and the current slide, which the current slide is, there's nothing, so it's not showing. But if I was to click on the first verse slide, it'll show the current lyrics and the lyrics for the next slide, and also we have our chords in there that follow as well. So basically yellow is what's coming next, white is what you're currently on. And then the only other thing we need to do for our McKinley campus, because we have the multi-screen output module, we'll go to multi-screen worship. And basically what that will do is if I click on this, it kills the background and takes the text and puts it into a lower third layout for our video, because it gets overlaid onto the video feed and then keyed out. So that should be all we need to do here. It is worth noting that this machine that we're looking at is where all the content gets created. This multi-screen cue will stay on this song, on this slide, and if this playlist gets exported and imported onto a machine that does not have the multi-screen module, it won't hurt anything. The cue will be there, but it won't do anything. It won't change the layout like that. The icon essentially will be there and nobody knows the difference. So we will switch back over to Ableton now. Now that we have our song prepped, we can go and we have our playlist set, so we know that it's playlist item 3. So we go back over to Ableton, click playlist 3 and just pull this in, boom, like that, and it creates a MIDI track. Zoom in a little bit. So basically what will happen is when you play this note will tell Propresenter, select playlist item 3. So if this song gets reused in the future and it's at a different point in the service, this will have to get adjusted. And that is part of our weekly programming. And it's an easy thing to adjust. And I think I have another video on that. So we have this in there. The next thing we need to do is, since it's created this MIDI track, we need to tell it where to send these commands. So right here, this pull-down menu where it says no output, click that down, and we have 3 options: the IAC driver, the Ableton commands to back of house Propresenter, and Ableton commands to front of house Propresenter. At our McKinley campus, we have a center screen and our side screens. What we're programming for is going to go to back of house Propresenter, because that is what runs our lower thirds. That's our Propresenter machine that we're working on right now. We don't program to the front of house screen at this point in time, because if we do it to 1, we can just the rest will trigger. And my other videos that explain this kind of help make a little more sense. So we've set that to output to back of house Propresenter. We can go ahead and save this. Save live set. And what this is essentially saying is that this was made with an older version of Ableton, and this newer version will save over it, and you won't be able to open it in an older version of Ableton again once this is saved over, which is fine. We're running all Ableton 10, I believe. This is an Ableton 9 file, so we'll just go ahead and save as, and literally it's the same name, so we'll just save right over it. Do you want to save over it? Yes. So basically, now you can't open it in Ableton 9 anymore. You have to open it in Ableton 10. I'm pretty sure this is Ableton 10. Yeah. So that's just a basic thing. So basically now it's saved. If it gets open again, this will be there, this MIDI track. So we have our playlist set. The next thing I want to do is, if you right-click anywhere where there isn't a track in this area, I believe, yeah, you can click down here. It doesn't matter. We want to change our grid to quarter notes, and then that will just allow this to have a little bit more detail to it. So we'll zoom in a little bit more, back this out, And then we can go ahead and test this. If we go to Propresenter, just click on anything else off from that song, and we hit play. You see how it selected the playlist and went to Won't Stop Now immediately once the song started. So that's showing that, that shows that the two machines are connected through the network. I'll make another video on how to connect the two machines on the network. There's some videos online as well. And so that detail can get covered in another video. But let's get to programming. So we want to just go ahead and start right off. The way I program is the first slide is a background, or there's no background, but it's the beginning of the song. So basically, the count in starts. At the very beginning of the song, it selects the playlist. So as soon as the tracks start, you should see Propresenter move to the song or playlist item it's supposed to. And then once the song actually starts, you know, so if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then the song starts on 1, that's when you will see something happen. If it's a background come in, or it's a quiet song so there's no background, but the first slide will trigger, and then whatever was in Propresenter, so like say you had your message slides, and you had like your title slide for your message as the final slide, and you're going back into a song, that title slide will stay there during the count in for the song, and then when the song starts, then the slide will change. Does that kind of make sense? So the slide will not trigger as soon as the song starts, or I should say, the slide will not trigger as soon as the backing track starts. It will start as soon as the congregation or audience will hear the song start. So the count-in's happening, and then on the second measure, or the third measure, or the fourth measure, or whatever, that's when the song actually starts, and then that's where Propresenter will change. So then it kind of looks a little more intentional. There's not like the screen goes dark or the background starts, but the music isn't starting, so it looks off-timed. It looks like it's a little more synced up that way. So we'll just play this and listen to the click. 1, 2, vamp, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that vamp, that's probably where I'd put it. Let me listen again. 1, 2, vamp. Okay, so you hear there's like that ramp up. So probably I would start a little bit sooner. 1, 2. So honestly, probably like here. So it's really like the second beat. 1, 2, vamp, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So you could either put it there, or you could put it where this intro marker is. That's when like the drums kick in. You might even do that. Put it right there. So like this is coming in, because this is just in the tracks. The band's probably not going to play anything. Yeah, we'll stick with that. And so then we'll just go through and start dragging all of these. Are all separate MIDI clips, and each one of these literally is what it says. Slide 1, slide 2, slide 3 through this. So this slide 1 is literally firing the first slide in Propresenter. So we'll just go ahead, and I know that slide 2 is the first slide of the verse, and it's going to be somewhere around here. And I'll just play the track, and you can kind of watch what I'm doing and get the timing for it. Usually, for timing of firing the next slide, I wait until, it depends on the speed of the song. If it's a fast song, I will try to get it so it fires the next slide on the first syllable of the last word. If it's a slower song, I'll wait until like halfway through the last word or the last syllable of the last word. Because if it's a slower song, there's usually more time, so it's not awkward. But we want to make sure we get the lyrics up there in time, so people can. It kind of leads them in. We don't want to be following the band. We want to lead the band with this, or have the appearance that we're leading the band. So let's just start this, and you can do this in real time while the song is playing. And so that's what I'm going to do. 1, 2, vamp, 2, 3, 4. Intro. And once you do this a couple times, you can actually start to skip through some of this and save some more time rather than waiting for the song to play through too. Verse 1. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, I should have done that at the very beginning. So there's no lyrics in this song. So if you don't know the song, you don't know the phrasing of the song, this is going to be pretty impossible to time out because you don't know the lyrics. So what I have started doing was going into Planning Center, downloading the song in the original key and dragging it in here and syncing it up so it plays alongside of all the tracks. And then that way you have a guide for how everything is going. That also helps too if you have volunteers coming in to do any programming. So I have a volunteer that comes in and programs lights every week, and he doesn't always know all the songs, especially if they're new songs. So it helps him kind of have a feel for adding the lighting cues and what the vibe is and who's singing what. So we'll go to Safari and we'll go, looks like there's a bunch of stuff already pulled up here. So we'll just go into songs and this is Won't Stop Now. Oops. Stop now. And the original key should be in the name in Ableton, so multi-tracks, files, Brandon Lake, live, elevation, worship, A. So it's in the key of A, so the key of A is right here. We upload our MP3s to Planning Center and then transpose them as we add different keys. So that's kind of our workflow, so that's where I'm getting this from. If you don't do that, you're going to need to get the song somewhere. We just buy it off of iTunes and then upload it to PCL. So if you download it from iTunes or steal it from Planning Center or whatever, what the workflow is here is we'll go ahead and put that MP3 that we just downloaded, so this one right here, into Dropbox with the song. So Weekends, Ableton files, backing tracks, Won't Stop Now, and I'll literally just put it right in here. So this folder contains all of our raw files or files that we need to reference. So we'll literally just take this, put it into there, boom, now it's in there. Take this, drag it into here, and then drag this back. Now this can be a little bit tricky because you got to get this timed up right. It's usually close, but it's very rarely. I think I've had once where it actually lined up, because it would have to be like the beginning of this track happens to be in musical time, which I don't know that would ever really happen usually. So so let's play it, and I might have to turn the grid off and slide this around, but you'll get the idea.
1, 2, vamp, 2, 4.
Okay, so I can see that that's the big hit, that's the drop right there. So I'm gonna back this up, take this and do there. And that actually looks pretty close. I don't know that that's gonna be perfect though. Let me zoom in here. Oops, where'd it go? Maybe right here, zooming in. Okay, cool. Well, that was easy. And I'll just back this up just so it starts. And then this should all be in musical time for the rest of the song then. Unless something is screwed up with the master, with the Ableton file where there's like some crazy tempo change or something, they should play together. Let me double check that though. Cool. So I basically just skipped through to just kind of listen, and you can kind of tell too because these like actually line up almost perfectly at the end. So they're probably playing together. So we can back this up, and we'll just jump into somewhere around here. Yeah, so you can actually kind of see that it's, if I solo this, so that lyric would have needed to be, this cue would have had to be before that. So this was late. So we'll just back this up to there. Oh, that's why. So I soloed this. That's right, okay. So we go through and we'll just mute all of this. It'll just make it a little bit easier to hear if I'm, so basically I just turned off all the tracks except the click and the guide. So the click, the guide, the reference track, and the MIDI track are playing, and I turned off everything else. Just a second ago I had soloed the MP3, which inherently muted everything else, including the MIDI track. And that's why when I dropped this in there, I was looking at Propresenter and it wasn't going anywhere. So now that the MIDI track and the reference guide are unmuted, as well as the click and the guide, now we should be ready to go. So you may notice that I'm not programming the same timing that I told you that I normally would program in. This is where you kind of have to interpret the lyric timing, what is too far ahead versus what is too late. I kind of feel like this timing is good. I mean, once I get this done, I'll go through and watch it and make sure. But you know, sometimes it doesn't need to go up there if, like, you don't need to have the lyric up there for the entire instrumental, or, you know, you just kind of feel the timing out and you get a feel for it. You know, you want it to come up enough time to read it and understand the line before it gets sung, but it doesn't need to be up there for, you know, 5 seconds. That's usually, you know, too long, I think. But anyway, we'll just keep going. So you notice how I put this slide right on the downbeat of the turnaround, because if you look in Propresenter, this is a blank slide. So it doesn't need to, there isn't anything that's guiding it for that next part. And it's kind of nice, I like having it land right on the beat, on the down, like the drop of it, so it looks a little bit more synced up and intentional. So you can kind of see I'm moving stuff around. Like parts that repeat, like choruses, you can kind of gauge. So I know that 3 beats ahead for chorus 1, 3 beats ahead for chorus 2, because the lyric phrasing is similar. So I just kind of knew that would work because it's repeating. Vamp I thought was going to be the drop. It's not. It just kind of continues to the interlude, and that's where the drop is. So I originally had slide 20 here, backed it up to there, because musically that's what it's doing. Oh, another thing too is there's 2 interludes here. That means musically that part is repeating. There's not 2 slides. There doesn't need to be 2 slides for this. So basically this slide, it will just stay up all the time until we get to the bridge. Okay, so this is a much faster phrasing, so you'll notice that these are kind of lining up at the end of the words, because we got to get that next slide in there in time. So it might transition while they're still singing into the next slide, but that's just kind of how we have to do it. So the next line is up there so you can read it in time. See if that works. Yeah, so a lot of times it helps to just kind of look over at Propresenter for these faster parts, just to make sure that it looks natural and can be followed, rather than just kind of looking at these MIDI clips. As I'm programming, I'm kind of looking back and forth and watching all of this. So this part's repeating a couple times, so you can probably also kind of gauge these gaps, and it gives you a rough idea as well as trying to just kind of watch the waveform and listen and guess. So let me put this back. So the first slide of the bridge is two beats. Second slide of the bridge, 2 beats. So it's a good guess. 2 beats is going to be there. And then this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what do we got? 1, 2, 4, 3, 4. 4, 3, 4. And same idea, repeat again. This was 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, and then that's an outro. So that we'll see what that even is. All right, so we'll just play this and kind of watch and see if it works. So far, so good. Okay, cool. So that is pretty good. And then we're just gonna drag one more at the very end on the downbeat of that trash can ending. So in Propresenter, there is actually no slide there. So this slide 37 is what's happening during the outro, and then there is not anything else here. We'll go here and hit the plus button and then just take this and go end. So now, say for instance, I'll give you an example. So what we've been looking at is how this is laid out for a McKinley campus, so there's no motion background. Let me go through and edit, multi-screen, and switch this to full screen graphics. So this is what it would normally look like right here for a campus that's not doing IMAG, right? So your lyrics are on here, blah, 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 instrumental, right? So we get down to the end, right? And it won't stop now, right? And then now this is the instrumental playing out at the end, and then at the very trash can ending, this slide will fire. The reason we put that in there is if we go through and embed a clear action, or a clear action, clear background cue. So what happens is this. So the instrumental's playing, the background is continuing to play. We'll just let this play through. And then that clears out at the end of the song then. So then we're ready for the next song after that. So this song is, the lyric cues are embedded into it. So the next thing we need to do is, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the timing of all this is fine. I've done it enough times that I think it's good. So we just click at the end of the song here and drag, and that will select all these clips, and right click anywhere in this area and then go to consolidate. So that makes this one MIDI clip now. It took all those multiple clips and made it into one clip. And then what we'll do is right click rename, or Command R, and we'll go uppercase Pro dash the name of the song, so it won't stop now. And then BOH for back of house. The reason why we name it that is because there are often times where we have lyric videos that are chunks of videos by either parts of songs, or they get triggered at specific times in the song that are not the same trigger points as the slides for the back of house. And those lyric videos will go to our center screen machine. So it's like a completely separate lyric video that gets triggered independently from our lower third graphics coming out of the back of house machine, but they're both playing alongside each other in Ableton. So we would actually go through this process a second time down here if we had a lyric video for it, and those MIDI notes then would trigger different parts of the lyric video. The reason why we break it up in chunks is that way it allows us, if we wanted to do a spontaneous worship part and move around in the song, in the timeline, it will continue to trigger the lyric video in the correct point in time, rather than just making a lyric video and just starting it at the same point in time as everything else. So like, if we never wanted to be, like if we never needed to vary from the arrangement of the song, we could do that. So basically everything starts at 0, you hit play, and everything plays in sync. And that's fine. A lot of concerts will do that. But what we have opted to do is when we create the videos, we export them in chunks. So intro, verse, chorus, bridge, down chorus, whatever. And then all of those just get triggered on the one in the song. So you'd have like slide 1, like the intro would be slide 1, verse 2 would be slide 2, or verse 1 would be slide 2, chorus 1 would be slide 3, and then that would get exported into one clip, just like we did for the back of house, and get exported, and then that would play alongside as well, if that kind of makes sense. I might make a video on that to kind of explain that concept a little bit more in depth. That takes some partnership with your video people, because they have to know exactly when to start all of the video clips. They have to have kind of a musical ear and make sure that they're all rendering on the 1. So like if this marker is on the 1 for verse 1, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, that video starts immediately at that point, and then the video will play in sync with the song. If they don't have that clip, the video clip, trimmed just at the right point to start at the right point, they won't necessarily play in time, if that makes sense. But that's for another video. So right now we have this export into one clip, and so now we just need to go export MIDI clip, and then we will literally render it. It's in the same folder we've been doing everything else in, where that MP3 got rendered to, or dragged into rather. We're gonna export this MIDI clip into this multitracks folder. And so that has all of the ASD files and the WAV files from multitracks. We just put the MIDI file right in there. Leave it just the name when we renamed it down here earlier. Let's go ahead and save. That is a very fast process. It's done because MIDI has virtually no data in it. So it's a very fast process. So now if we go to Finder, this folder is here for the Won't Stop Now song. We're looking at it. And then we go into multitracks and we scroll down to right there. And now we have the MIDI file. So when you make your set list, you import all these tracks. We import that one as well as a MIDI track, and then that will play alongside all the other backing tracks and trigger your Propresenter. So that is that process. So Propresenter is now done. That's ready to go. It can be imported and you can run with it. The next thing that we need to do is import our timecode or Smpte code. We have 24 hours worth of timecode here. They're cut up into 10-minute chunks. So we have that many different items that we can have in our song library until we have to start reusing timecode. The timecode is used for triggering our lighting. Most obviously, it triggers all of our lighting cues. And then we can also use it to fire our snapshots on our audio console as well. So that can be automated as well if the operator chooses to do so. Some operators do that, some operators don't. That's up to them. What I have done is create a Google Doc to keep all of these chunks of timecode organized. So basically we go to Safari, and watermark Ableton song list, and you'll see this is our entire library. And as we've added songs, I've just incrementally, for the most part, incrementally added timecode. So if we go to the very top, we see that our pre-service lighting look is 0. Our welcome is at 1 hour. Bumper is at 1 hour 10 minutes. The message is 1 hour 10 minutes 12 seconds. That number changes, that 12 seconds, based on the time for the bumper. When I do a video on lighting programming, that will make more sense. These are just random special elements: communion, baby dedications, special videos. It's just a utility. These are just timecode that we've set aside to use for special video elements. And then our dismiss. Those are like our generic timecode ones that we use week to week. And then these are all special songs. And these all stay programmed in our lighting computers library. So anytime we do the song, once it's programmed, whenever that timecode goes to the computer, it will fire that song, for the most part. So yeah, so we're adding a new song, so we'll just go here. So this would be Won't Stop Now. Oops. Now, tab over, and this will be 16 hours and 40 minutes. So we'll go back to Ableton. We just have to go 1640, which you can hear it's playing. It is a terrible sound. It is not fun to listen to. And we just drag that into here. Just put it at the very beginning. And I usually, just for good measure, trim this back to the end of the song. So this is a 10-minute chunk. We did that assuming that most songs don't go past 10 minutes. And if they do, you could just drag 2 of them in and connect them, essentially. You would consolidate them into one clip and then rename it, 1640 and 1650, I guess you could name it. But yeah, so that's your time code. We know that that's the time code. and then we just want to take the audio routing here, and we do not want it to go to the master. We want to send that out an external output, and then go to output 5. Output 5 in the Watermark workflow, output 5 is lighting. Every campus Dante 5 out of our Ableton machine is patched to the input, the timecode input for lighting. So you won't hear it, but if I was to play this now, our lighting computer would start triggering whatever the closest timecode is to that. This song obviously has not been programmed in our lighting computer yet, so it's not going to just start firing this song because it doesn't exist in the lighting computer's library yet. But that is, I think that's it. We have timecode, we have our MIDI track that operates Propresenter, and then we have our MP3 reference. And then I'll usually just save this. And so then when someone wants to come in and program lighting, they can open this file in Dropbox, and they can use this as a reference to program their lighting to. They can also open the Propresenter file, or the playlist, or the song, really, and the lyrics will fire along with it, so then they have whatever your motion background is, and they can kind of base their lighting programming off from the motion background and match up colors and the dynamics of that. So, yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah, let me know in the comments if there's any questions, if this was helpful. Hit the like button. And yeah, thanks for watching.